everyone. Welcome back for another Victory Sunday. Canes beat Stanford 42-7. Joined by D'Angelo as always for our day after show. DJ, how's it going?
I'm doing well. Always good when the Canes win, and a nice bounce back win after a tough week last week. So that was good to see.
Yeah, tough week and a bit of a slow start yesterday as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
We'll get into all of that. First, a word from our sponsor, which is still 305-800 Pain. After an accident, every minute counts. With one call to 305-800 Pain, you get immediate access to trusted doctors and attorneys who guide you step by step. With an A-plus rating from the Better Business Bureau, they are a brand you can trust. Much like 5 Reasons Cain, 305-800 Pain is based in the local community of Miami-Dade County and South Florida. They'll handle all your accident needs, including car accidents, personal injuries, and related legal matters. So after an accident, be sure to call 305-800 Pain. The number is the brand, 305-800 Pain. Después de un accidente, cada minuto cuenta. Con una llamada a 305-800 Pain, ustedes pueden obtener acceso inmediatamente a doctores y abogados para ayudar con todo el proceso. Con una clasificación de A+ del Better Business Bureau, pueden confiar en ellos. 305-800 Pain tiene mucho en común con 5 razones Canes. Están enfocadas en la comunidad local de Miami-Dade County y en Florida del Sur. Ellos pueden hablar con todo después de un accidente de carro, lesiones personales y otras cosas legales relacionadas. Entonces, después de un accidente, llama 305-800 Pain. El número es el nombre de la marca, 305-800 Pain. All right, DJ. So, what were your initial impressions of the Canes and Cardinal? We got the Cardinal after the Cardinals.
So not Cardinals, Cardinal.
Yeah, they were the Cardinal. So we played the Cardinals 2 weeks ago, and last night we played the Cardinal.
Huh. Well, my first initial impressions is that we started too damn slow, but we found our form in the later parts of the game. Mark Fletcher continues to be a beast, and Carson Beck didn't have a bad game. He didn't have his best game, but he did enough, and he got the job done. And again, I thought the defense could have been a little bit better, but they held their own and did what they needed to do. Ruben Bain had a tremendous game, and so overall, kind of not what I was expecting early on, but they managed to pull their stuff together in the second half and put their foot on the gas and finish the job. So I thought it was really good to see them kind of recollect themselves in the second half and find that extra gear and end up with a blowout victory. You're on mute.
Thank you. I hate to say this, but it did feel like the Louisville loss showed the confidence though. They came out very timid and very risk averse in the first half, and the slowness. I mean, I talked about this on Twitter too. That first half, the pace that the Canes played at was not acceptable. You gotta. That's what bad teams do to try and shorten the game. And one of the reasons, I mean, if you look at the Canes had the ball 4 times in the entire first half.
Yeah.
They had it 4 times in the third quarter and scored 3 touchdowns. The other one was a long drive where they failed on a 4th down. Like, they had 4 actual drives. There's our guy, Jazz. Shout out to Jazz. See you tomorrow night.
Hey, Jazz. How's it going, man?
But the pace was so slow, it basically left Stanford in the game. Because after that first drive, the defense was lights out. And the offense was, they were moving the ball and not finishing drives, but they were going so slow, they limited the number of possessions. That actual touchdown drive, that was half the second quarter.
Yeah.
And then took all 3 timeouts into the locker room, even though, there was a minute plus left when Stanford got the ball, and let them run the clock out instead of using the timeouts. I thought it was very, very timid. And I think, in the second half came out, the defense continued to play at a high level. And then when Malachi Toney started running punts back deep into Stanford territory, it shortened the field, quickened the pace up, and then the scoring started. But yeah, I think once the ball started rolling, you saw that confidence come back, and you saw the same team we saw the first 5 weeks. But that first half felt very scared. and timid. Like they were afraid of making mistakes and afraid of opening up too much, and yeah, kind of played in a little bit of a box and played in Stanford. The other thing that was happening early, which by the end of the game wasn't happening, is the Canes were losing up front, which is
Yeah.
I know a lot of people, and I guess we can transition a little bit to the offense. So I know a lot of people were upset with the play calling and saying all we're doing is running up the middle. There's a reason for that. Stanford was sitting in the 2 high safety. They were playing back. There were 6 and 7 man fronts. You run on those. And so they're calling the play that formationally should work. And the offensive line was just getting bullied by Stanford. Like, that's a problem.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what happened at halftime. In the second half, they came out and started. You could see then the Stanford defensive line started moving backwards. But that first half, yeah, they were just the numbers were there to run on it, and the Canes couldn't run on it because they were getting whipped up front. If your offensive line doesn't block, you're not going to be able to. None of your run plays are going to work. So I know there's a lot of focus on the play calling. Why are we running so much, and why are we running up the middle? It's because the play was there. Like formationally, that's what the play dictated, and the offensive line was getting bullied. There were several times where linemen just shoved 3 yards back into the runner.
Yeah.
We haven't seen that all year. Even against Louisville, we didn't see that.
Yeah, it was interesting because it's almost like in the first half we played how opposing teams would play against us last year to keep, the offense off the field, just kind of drain the clock. We played like the underdogs in the first half last night, and I totally agree with you about the offensive line. So that was a bit concerning. And they did get it. Everything seemed to shift in the second half. Mario probably delivered a fiery speech. Get your crap together, you losers, I bet he said. No, but I'm happy that they corrected, the stuff that was glaring in the first half, but it is a little bit concerning. It's almost like, they were still kind of playing in the Louisville game, and then they kind of woke up and they're like, oh, we can do this, and we're playing Stanford, and we have the better athletes, and we can, turn on the Jets, and that's what they did. But I didn't like how lethargic they came out to start, but I am glad to see how they kind of made adjustments and corrected it at halftime, because that's what halftime's all about. You're on mute again, Vish.
My first half is bad. I'll be better in the second. Don't worry. I'm gonna come out in the second half, TJ. When we get to the defense, I'm gonna be nailing it.
What about how you start? About how you finish?
I guess so. No, but I think it did help too in the third quarter when Malachi Tony again. He was outstanding.
Yeah,
he was ridiculous. He was great in the run game too. That touchdown drive was he bailed that possession out a little bit with that play on the reverse, and then the 2 punt returns in the third quarter. I think that almost forced the pace to quicken as well. But again, you get 4 possessions in the quarter and drives too. It's not 3 and outs because again, the one that they didn't score on was a drive too. Although the offensive line got bullied on that. But
yeah, it's a little concerning.
4th and 1. But overall, I think once the pace started picking up, I think that touchdown drive at the end of the half was frankly too slow. You get the ball with 8 minutes left. You should be thinking we need 2 more possessions this half. Instead, they ran the clock out themselves. The time possession at the half was 2-1 in favor of the Canes, but Stanford got the ball 3 times in the first half. The Canes got it 4 times. That was it. Like, that's not good if you're the favorite. Again, trying to open up a lead. It's hard to do that when there's so few possessions. With that said, I do think that drive restored confidence a little bit when CJ Daniels makes that touchdown catch. It was obviously another circus catch from CJ Daniels. When that happens, I think the whole team kind of exhales a little bit. It's like, all right, we're playing like the things we saw that were working earlier in the season are starting to come back a little bit. Yeah. And then we saw a much better, I think a much more confident team in the second half.
Yeah. They looked like they belonged there, and they looked like they were comfortable with the plays that they were executing. And Daniels had a great game. I thought he played well. And, Malachi Tone, like, if you told me he was a freshman and I didn't know beforehand, I would have said you're bullshitting me, but he is, and he's pretty damn good, and I think when you have a guy like Malachi Tony that can take the game over like that, you're never out of a game, right? And he came up huge again, and It's so funny looking back now. We were talking about preseason. Oh, is he going to see the field? Will they use him at all? Yeah, they're using him. He is seeing the field, and
A
he's
little bit,
making,
just a little bit.
yeah, just a little bit, and he's making quite the impact.
Yeah, we'll get to it in a second. Let's talk about here. I'm going to bring up the stats. Let's talk about the running back rotations. You mentioned
Yeah,
this kind of, to me, is the game where Mark Fletcher, to a certain extent, separated himself, because we've been doing a little bit by committee. I mean, this isn't a committee,
yeah.
and Wheatley Humphreys were pretty much all in the last possession, so they just said Fletcher's the guy.
And his last playing time was Bethune-Cookman, I believe, for Wheatley Humphrey. So
Yeah. I mean, he and Pringle obviously got the touchdown, got in there on that last drive to get some reps. But we didn't see a lot of Lyle. We saw more of Marty Brown than Lyle, but Marty Brown was not effective at all. And they just said, forget this. Like, Fletch is the guy. It's his game. He's our running back one. And I do think that was important because we've been doing this committee thing. And Fletcher has, not going back 2 years now, he's been effective. Obviously, last year had Damian Martinez, who was
right.
justifiably the starting running back. But I think they've been messing around too much trying to spread the wealth. And I think in this game, they said, look, Fletcher's the guy. It's your ball. And I think that was an important kind of change that needed to happen. Because these running backs, you get better when you get reps and you get carries. And I think his finally just like, look, the ball's yours. When we run the ball, you're going to be the primary runner. I think that helped a lot because it wasn't, it didn't start well, but they stuck with it. And eventually he got a rhythm. The hole started opening up. He started grinding yards. And they started scoring touchdowns left and right. And the next thing you know, you've opened the game up. But I do think it was important that they kind of established that he is your primary back. We're not doing this 3 guys sharing 5 carries each thing anymore. It's going to go to him.
Yeah, we're not doing that, and we're also making it very clear that you are going to be counted on in this offense. It's not just going to be the Carson Beck and wide receiver show. You are a major part of what we do, and like the stats say right there, 106 yards, 23 carries, 3 touchdowns, a little over 4.5 yards per carry, and then you see 23 carries, 7 carries, 4 carries. So. I mean,
yeah, and the 7 carries again were garbage time on that last drive. So it's really like the 3 kind of primary runners that we had in the game was competitive.
Shout out to Carson Beck for 8 yards.
He scrambled up the middle. That was a big play. So.
Yeah, that was. I thought he did really well on that particular play. And
yeah.
So no, it's clear that he's the guy. Fletcher is the guy at running back, and hey, as long as he can carry the load, then he's proven that he's not only the top back for Miami, but one of the top backs, if not the top back in the ACC.
Yeah, and you can see like the primary other backs that got carries during competitive parts of the game were Lyle and Brown, and they combined for 9 carries. So that kind of tells you something right there. It's about 70% of the carries going to Fletch is about what you want to see. And I do think it was important though that Lyle got in there and finally had some effective running because again he does bring a little bit different speed to the position that they want to mix in. But I thought him getting in when the game was kind of getting out of hand and getting some effective runs in will help down the line though, because I do think he still has a role to play. I don't know if you can say the same thing for Marty Brown at this point. I think he's kind of being moved to the background a little bit.
Which is a little bit odd given how he kind of started the year, but
I think here's the thing with him, right? So he also, very similar to Jordan Lyle, actually has a very his what he differentiates with as a runner is he's very good at running through contact, turning a 3-yard gain into a 5-yard gain and leaning on people. And he's been effective doing that. He hasn't been the last few weeks, which is, he's not someone that really runs away from contact. He runs through it, though. He's a very tough runner, and frankly, the Canes have benefited a lot from that this year. But in this game, they started using Fletcher more in those situations. Earlier in the year, 3rd and 2, 4th and 2, whatever. It's put Marty in. He always falls forward, always drags the pile. And he was very, very effective in that. Remember the UF game, the wiped out touchdown That was
Yep.
short yardage. They put him in there. It's like he'll grind this yard out, except he got loose, even confused the officials. But but but
Yeah.
that like but so that would be his role. But if they decide that Fletch is going to get those carries, I think it's going to move him, away from getting those getting. I think that is a role that he could most definitely serve, be the short yardage back, kind of like when we had Dad Franklin in that role, and it's hard to tackle Marty Brown for a loss. Like if we had him in there on that fourth down and got stuffed on, he might have converted it. He does have something that the other backs don't. I just feel like if they're gonna prioritize, like, hey, Fletch is the guy, we want him in those situations too. I don't know what Marty Brown's role is then.
I also think you're at the point of the season, or in the second half of the season where maybe the first half you start to, watch for the number of carries Fletch is getting in an effort to conserve him throughout it. And I understand Miami wants to make a deep playoff run and stuff like that. So in theory, there is still a lot of the season left to go. But, at this point in the season, in the back half, you can kind of start extending Fletcher's usage a little bit more to where you're not going to have to necessarily be mindful of the amount of carries he's getting. Whereas in game 1 or 2, you don't want to, have him have, I don't know, 50 carries to the first 2 games. So I do think the fact, at this point in the season, where we are in the calendar year also kind of helps the running back rotation as well, and that you can rely on Fletch a little bit more.
Yeah, and I'm also curious, Pringle, Wheatley, Humphrey, they're talented. I don't know that they're gonna have a role this year, but it'll be interesting to see if they try to do something there. Again, it's a very deep running back room. All right, the
I like
receivers,
Pringle.
you kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. So Tony Johnson coming out party. We played a lot of receivers. And yeah, Tony Johnson noticeably made some plays. Obviously, Malachi Tony has developed into Carson Beck's go-to. CJ Daniels had the circus touchdown catch, also dropped a fourth down, which wasn't great. He kind of had
That
a
was
bit
the
of a
play I
knee
texted you
game.
about, right? Wasn't that?
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
why are they going for it?
Yeah, which again, we got to talk about the kicking game too, but yeah, spread the ball around some. JoJo got a lot of snaps, didn't make any plays, but he was on the field quite a bit. For those that are complaining about JoJo not getting snaps, he did. They rotated heavily in this game. A lot of receivers played even before it was a blowout. But yeah, I was really happy that Tony Johnson stepped up. I'm not necessarily. I mean, obviously, CJ Daniels. This is probably his worst game this year, but he's fine. He and Malachi Tony are kind of your top 2 guys. We're still looking for that third guy. I thought Tony Johnson took a step towards being that guy. He showed explosiveness, got open. I think people forget he's a veteran receiver. He caught a lot of balls at Cincinnati. He's someone that, if you're looking for a reliable third option that'll run the route correctly, kind of get open,
Yeah.
make catches, like he's that guy. And I thought he showed that last night.
Yeah, like you said, we've been kind of looking for that third receiver beyond Malachi Tony and CJ Daniels, and Tony Johnson kind of played that role last night. I thought he was really good at making the big play. Tony does what Tony does, and then you had a guy like Josh Moore. So, I mean, there were options for Carson Beck in this game, whereas before, sometimes it feels like there's only Tony and Keelan Marion, CJ Daniels. But the thing that kind of I'm looking at the stat sheet here, and Elijah Lofton again, 2 catches, 7 yards. I keep looking for like a breakout game for him this season, or something like that, and it just doesn't seem to be there.
Yeah, I don't think it is there. I think the coaches tried to force it. That play where they motioned him out and everyone in the stadium knew they were going to throw him the ball, including Stanford, and they tackled him for a loss was not exactly
I was
great.
being kind. I don't think it's there either, but yeah.
Well, I don't think it's there, and I don't know what's wrong. I mean, people have been raving about his talent and his ability,
Yeah.
but it's clearly not. I mean, you're 7 games into the season. At some point, it's like this is just what it is, and I don't know. He got hurt early and he had to work his way back, and maybe he's struggling with some things there, but we are not seeing I mean, he had a big catch against Notre Dame, I believe, on like a long play.
Yeah.
He's done something
And
against
that's what I
Florida. We
thought
ran
that,
him in.
okay, maybe he's turned the
Yeah,
corner. Maybe we're finally seeing some of that ability. Yeah.
Against Florida, we motioned him over and like he had a big play in the flat. So he's done some things early in the year, but it's actually gotten worse as the season's gone on.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's still struggling with something. He's not listed on any of the injury reports, but I think they're a little bit lost in terms of what to do with him. We kept saying how versatile he is. And I think that's still true. Like, I know we haven't really necessarily seen it on the field, but I think he is a matchup problem for other teams. But he's kind of a tweener. We don't really use a fullback, which is actually probably what his position would be if we were like 20 years ago.
Big Ten football.
Well, I mean, the Canes,
Yeah.
sat the last championship team. That was an I formation team.
Yeah.
There was a fullback always on the team, but the fullbacks were freak athletes. They're like people like Najee Davenport, who ended up playing tailback in the NFL, were playing fullback.
Very good player. Very good player.
and so it was actually more in the mold of Elijah Lofton, where he's lead blocking, but also like he's a weapon in the passing game. And not just a weapon in the you forgot to cover the fullback weapon, and like we'll run the wheel route at the fullback position, and like you can't cover him because he's faster than your linebacker, which is a fullback. So I feel like that's where he would have fit 20 years ago. At this point, I don't think he's a traditional tight end. You want to stick on the end of the line and block. Like that's what we're using Bauman for.
Yeah.
And so I don't think they know what to do with him, to be honest. I don't think they know how to make him fit in this offensive scheme, or really what his position is in modern football, because he is kind of in between fullback and tight end. They can say he's an H-back, but we don't play two tight ends. So like, unless you're going to go to two tight end sets, you're not going to have the H-back on the field. And so I think he's kind of stuck there.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll be able to reach his full potential as a member of the Hurricanes, just due to the nature, like you said, of this offense and the fact that he's a tweener. I still do think he's a very good athlete. I just don't know if he fits here at Miami, and sometimes that happens.
Well, I do think it is on the coaches to figure out a way to use the talent, and I don't think it's anything to do with his level of effort or anything.
No,
they're struggling to figure out how to fit him. They got to figure that out. And if they do that, like more can open up. The answer is not, let's obviously motion him into the flat. Like, you got to run normal plays. Like, this isn't Devin.
Yeah, when everybody knows it's coming.
Yes, this isn't Devin Hester where you're just like flipping the ball and be like, go run somewhere. No one can tackle you anyway. Like, you got to actually run plays here. Like, that's not going to work. So I think they got to figure out plays they can run with him, and ways to keep him, like have him on the field when the plays aren't run for him. Because subbing him in, telling him to motion into the flat,
it's a big tell for the defense.
Yeah, you might as well put a sign up that says "ball going here." So that's not doing him any favors. So we'll see. But the tight end's once again non-existent.
I don't know, man.
I just don't think it's. And again, we talked about this a lot on the Six Ring Show last Monday. We threw to the tight ends a ton last year. McCormick had a lot of catches. Obviously, Elijah Arroyo parlayed that into a high pick in the draft. It's just not happening. But again, those two guys were, especially Arroyo, is a complete. He's starring in the NFL now. He's a complete tight end. Where it feels like this year, like that, it's not there talent wise. Because McCormick would play a lot in those power sets when we, obvious run downs, and then, and Arroyo is obviously the guy, and Arroyo can also flank as a receiver. He can do all sorts of stuff with him that it doesn't appear that we can do with these guys. So I think we're just more limited at that position, and it's causing issues.
The lack of development at that position has come back to bite us a little bit, but also when you have playmakers at wide receiver like Malachi Toney and CJ Daniels, the lack of production at tight end sometimes gets overlooked. But right now, the tight ends are not performing I'm not going to say how they should be, but they're just not a focal point of the offensive game plan. And I do think at some point they need to be more involved.
Yeah, no, I do think so. There's more to uncover within this. That's why I say it's on the coaches to figure out ways to
Yeah.
do that effectively without kind of undercutting the rest of the offense. Because the way they tried to get Lofton the ball is just not going to work. It's not going to be effective for the whole team. So that type of stuff, that's not the way to do it.
No.
All right, before we, I think a way to transition to the defenses to look a little bit at. Let me find here we go. The numbers here, which are, so it was only 5 penalties for 30 yards, but they were consequential penalties. I think it's kind of funny because we talked a lot about the slow start and how the second half, okay, that's the team. We saw the first 5 weeks. It was good to see that. It was like a breath of fresh air. Okay. And I think the team exhaled also and played a lot more like with that confidence that we saw at the beginning. Look, when you lose a game, you can say everything, we've moved on, it's fine. In your head, when you're undefeated and you're killing people like the Canes did the first 5 weeks, you start to get this air of invincibility. And when you lose, it doesn't matter who you are, you're gonna get shaken a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it shook them up. And when they got their legs in the second, they got into halftime, they got that touchdown. Again, it was kind of more, it was a tough catch by CJ Jones. I think everyone kind of exhaled a little bit, came out in the second half. It was actually good. Stanford got the ball first, got the 3 and out, and then the team took off. But it very nearly happened on the first drive because the Canes were moving the ball easily, converting third downs, moving the ball. It was a good drive, and then the false start. And we have heard, and then the drive came apart, and Carter Davis missed a field goal for the first time this year. And all of a sudden, and then Stanford goes down and scores, and you're like, what the hell just happened? 2 minutes ago, we were driving the ball to go up 7-0, and now we're down again. And then I get the pace of play. Didn't get that many possessions that half, but it was only 5 for 30, but all of the penalties were very consequential. And actually, Stanford's first drive was aided by an offside penalty as well. And if you look at Stanford's, I think what were the first down totals? I think they had 8 for the game. Yeah, here, 8 first downs. 3 of those 8 were aided by Canes penalties, 2 offsides and a pass interference. Like that, again, the defense was outstanding, but you got to clean this stuff up. That first drive, like we're having all these conversations about what's going on. This team looks terrible at all. If they don't false start there, and it was Bauman in that instance, but it's been everyone this year, so I'm not pointing the finger at any one player. You don't false start. It was like 2nd and 6. You're grinding out some yards. You're moving the ball. You're going to go in and score a touchdown almost for sure. And that's 7-0. And that exhale that happened at halftime happens in the first quarter. And you're not sitting there hand-wringing the whole first half of the game. So it wasn't a big number this time, but boy, were those penalties like at the wrong time and unforced ones too. Even the pass interference. Normally, pass interference is like you kind of sometimes have to avoid a bigger play.
Yeah.
I mean, Poyser got there about 10 seconds too early on a ball that was never going to be caught and wipe the receiver out. It was like,
that was a clear that was a clear call to me there too, unfortunately. But
yeah, I mean, they did a little bit better on cleaning up the penalties. Mario did call it out though in the post game, said we got to stop these pre-snap penalties because they're drive. It's the way we play. We are a little bit of a grinded out team. And when you make a 5-yard penalty, that puts you into a lot of trouble. When you're getting 6 yards of play, and then 4, 5, 6 yards of play, it puts you right on the cusp there. And that's what results in the Canes going for it 5 times. Is you make those penalties, and the first down becomes a 4th and 2, 4th and 3, and then I guess we'll go for it. That does still need to be cleaned up.
Yeah, this is something that's kind of reared its ugly head throughout the course of the season, and kind of very Mario Cristobal like to have this many penalties as a team. And I'm not saying that's his fault. It's just kind of a weird year for penalties. But
I mean, he and Dawson also talked extensively, especially about this. This is the first time the defense had a bunch of pre-snap penalties, jumped off sides a bunch of times. Got away with a pretty bad face mask too, by the way. But
Yeah, I missed that one. Yeah, yeah,
but they've talked extensively. We got to stop this. They're killing drives, and you see it. I mean, they're being truthful, right? You're seeing it. Like that first drive killed by a false start. And yeah, you'd like to be able to overcome that a little bit more, but it gets you off schedule. It forces you to do things you're not comfortable with. And then, you make errors. In this case, missed a field goal on top of it. But, every week at the press conference, obviously we see those, we're on those. It's a constant refrain. Hey, you've got to fix this. And it's gotten better. 5 for 30 is a lot better than what it has been in,
yeah.
in
10 for
the past
120.
Yeah, yes, but the unforced nature of false starts, jumping off sides, like that's 3 of the 5 penalties. Like that, you can't be doing that. Like they still got to work on that a little bit. But other than that, first drive, the defense just absolutely lights out. The pass rush got home repeatedly. The sack totals aren't there because he resorted to throwing the ball up into coverage and getting it intercepted. So that was good. No, I thought the defense was lights out. The first drive, obviously some issues, including giving up some third and longs.
Yeah.
The third down defense, though, came together because that's been a struggle the last several weeks, getting off the field on third down. After that first drive, they did it repeatedly, forced turnovers. Just overall, an outstanding performance by the defense.
Absolutely. And I thought this was their best game in terms of rushing the passer. I thought they were able to get home quite a few times. Ruben Bain had a fantastic game. I mean, as he often does, right? And I had been complaining about the lack of pass rushing and lack of pressures, but they were able to get home. Last night, and I thought they did a really good job of, even like you said, if they weren't getting sacks, and even if it didn't show up on the stat sheet, they were getting interceptions, so they were causing disruption in Stanford's backfield, and I thought they did a really good job of making the quarterback uncomfortable, and that's not something we've seen consistently this season. So it was great to see them really kind of put that together.
Yeah, it was. And I think the other thing, again, after that first drive, just really locked in, good coverage as well, even when he did have time to throw, rotated a lot of guys, and obviously Mesidor didn't play, so guys had opportunities, they stepped up and made plays. And yeah, after the first drive, obviously Stanford moved down the field and got a touchdown. Yeah, you could see the offensive line going back on every play. Saw a lot of good gap shooting by the D line. A lot of younger guys got in there and made plays. It was great to see that. Linebacker play was excellent as well. I thought Wes, in addition to the interception, had a really good game. And yeah, it was a really strong performance from that defense. And yeah, I think they needed that too after that first drive. It's kind of like, man, what is this? And then. Yeah. And again, especially having that success on third down is critical because the team is not. They have not been able to get off the field. Dating back to the Florida State game, we talked about, Florida State kept converting. And, now this game, the first drive, there were several third and fourth downs converted. And to then, again, after that, really just shut it down completely. I think the only time Stanford crossed midfield after that drive was after the Canes had scored to go up 35-7. The backups weren't for both teams. I think they barely crossed midfield. That's it. It can't dominate more than that. 2 turnovers and not letting the team cross midfield is. I mean, what else can you say? That's just brilliant stuff. That's what you want to see. And Stanford's offense isn't terrible. Their pass defense is, so throwing for 205 yards, not great. But the Canes defense just lights out. The dominant performance and a needed dominant. They need that to, it's like a basketball play. They need the ball to go through the hoop, and it did. And yeah, I mean, there's really nothing to complain about the defense. Drives happen. They give up one drive, and then from there it was. And, they were also aided. Stanford got the ball 3 times in the first half, unless you count that running the clock out on the last drive where they ran a couple of plays and went to the locker room. So 3 actual drives, and one of them was a touchdown. So that's not great numbers-wise, but then the second half, obviously, a lot more possessions for Stanford, and they couldn't do anything. So fantastic job.
Yeah, and Ben Gilbertson for Stanford is a pretty good quarterback. He over 1,500 yards on the season, 8 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He's no slouch either. So the fact that they were able to kind of shut him down as effectively as they did was a positive sign.
Yeah,
Gilbertson
and
also
he's
kind of looks a little bit like Andrew Luck. So maybe Andrew Luck is he the general manager of Stanford now? I saw him on
I
the
think so.
sideline.
Yeah. He's the general manager, and then Frank Reich is a temporary head coach or something. There's some weird
Yeah,
arrangement over there where that's what's happening. Yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, no. Yeah, he's not going to light the world on fire, but he's
yeah.
generally efficient, and the fact that they rattled him again, good sign because he started to panic. I mean,
He did. Yeah.
he started to panic there, so that's a great sign from the defense when you kind of know you're getting to the quarterback.
Yeah, that's the thing too. All they really had to do was kind of close in the pocket a little bit and kind of, get that pressure, and you could see like a deer in the headlights, like right. He was kind of like, "Oh no, what do I do now?" So even that was effective. Even
Yeah,
and
he started to the pressure started to get to him. The receivers weren't getting open, and he
yeah,
started to kind of
yeah,
he tried to fit a lot of 2-yard passes in that were not connected. So
yeah,
that's what you got to where it needs
yep,
to be.
yep.
Shout out to Kane Lake in the chat. He's a
Hey, what's up, Ken Lane? Good morning.
frequent viewer. Shout out to you. Yeah, I mean, so that was a good performance out of the defense. Obviously, like can't really complain about anything there. And then I guess the last kind of the special teams, we finally saw something out of the return game. Obviously, Carter Davis missed a field goal. That's hopefully like he rebounds from that. We'll see the next time. We don't kick a lot of field goals, so
No, we don't.
we go for it a lot actually. So,
Which I don't
but
mind.
I will say just real quick on him missing that field goal. So look, that stuff happens. His first miss of the season. It's fine. However, everyone that last week was screaming, "Why didn't you just slam the ball in the middle of the line and kick a 48-yard field goal?" It's not an automatic kick. It wasn't like they were at the 5-yard line and like tried to throw like a force the ball in the end zone with like no time left. They needed to get closer. And if Mario had slammed the ball into the line 3 times and kicked a 50-yard field goal and he had missed, I can't imagine what you guys would have done. So just like, look, it's still look. I know kicking has improved a lot, in particular in the NFL, where basically if you get to midfield, every NFL kicker can make it from 60 now. But like, these are still, there's still an element of college kickers miss kicks, and that's fine. It's part of the game. But it does inform part of the strategy from last week when Mario was like, "Look, we had to get closer. We were trying to make the kick easier because it's not. These are not. And obviously, he missed a shorter one this week. But again, that happened. It wasn't a leg issue. He hooked it a little bit. But yeah, the idea that was like an automatic field goal, that was not an easy kick from where we were on the field. Like,
Yeah.
So if he had time and timeouts to move it closer, of course he's going to try to do that. Anyway, to this game, let's talk about the positives. So just before, obviously, we're going to talk about Malachi Tony. Ooh, one tackle away a couple of times from going to the house with it, but 2 really good punt returns. And I also think, underrated is his decision making on the punt returns. Like again, we forget he just turned 18. And, he knows when to fair catch it. He knows when to not fair catch it. He's done just an excellent job managing that position all year. And he finally got some room to run some of these back and made 2 great returns that kind of ignited that third quarter blowout.
He can do it all. He really can do it all. And, watching him on returns is great because, as much as you see that speed when he's running after the catch as a receiver, you definitely see that speed on, punt return and just, give him the football and let him run. And he did that on Saturday, and he's such a special player. He really does play beyond his years and a very smart football player, and I can't wait to see him on Sundays.
Yeah, no, he's outstanding, and he's fast and he's quick, and those aren't necessarily the same thing.
Yeah.
So that's why he's
Very
so effective
shifty.
in the punt return game. Yeah, a punt return game, that reverse that he had the big run on, that play didn't work. Stanford busted in the backfield, and he got outside of one tackler, stepped through another one, and then got to the sideline and got up the sideline, made a huge play that the Canes really needed in that spot that, could have been a loss of yardage if he wasn't so talented. And again, he's playing like a senior, and he's barely 18 years old. It's just remarkable. And we finally saw a Keelan Marion kick return that, oh man, I don't know if they replayed it on TV or if like how much that was gone. He was going to house that, and then I couldn't see who it was. I couldn't see anything because the players blended with the field. That's a whole other issue. So I saw a helmet I saw a black helmet get whoever was like second from the left on that when he was coming in. The lane was there. The reason he had to jump is someone on our team just got physically dominated to the point that put on his backside, and the Stanford guys just all of a sudden because Marion was going to run off that block, and there was no one beyond it. And he was gone, and all you had to do was just not get basically knocked into Marion, and just a physical. It was kind of a microcosm of the first half. Point of attack, Stanford was more physical, and just there was someone got owned there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so all of a sudden Marion had a player at his feet, but that was well blocked. And there's an art to doing. Obviously, you need the blocking as well, but there's an art to kick returns, and we kind of, we've tried to get Marion the ball some in the past game and all that, but his skill is kick returning. And we finally got to see that like that again. That was good kick return running, but unfortunately the blocking broke down right at the worst time where he had that. So that was good to see as well. Obviously, majority of kickers can kick touchbacks. Now, so you don't get that many opportunities, but just another thing that you can kind of see looking forward that's an opportunity to maybe make a play down the road. If you had that block, he was going to go to the house with it, like it was there.
I'm glad you said something about the uniforms. That's what I took from that entire thoughtful analysis that you just had. No, but I totally agree with you on that play for sure. But I am glad you said something about the uniforms because those were not my favorite, just because they were so hard.
Here's a question, right? So, and again, I don't know if they had better, like when you're at the game and they do put the replays up on the screen, but it's not as easy to see as like on a TV. When CJ Daniels, right before he caught the touchdown, the play before they were reviewing to see if the ball bounced, it's very hard to get any, and maybe it bounced, maybe it didn't. It was kind of, at least for me, it was hard to tell. So they did the right thing by saying inconclusive call stands, but he's blending in with the field so much. It's very hard to see where he starts and the field ends.
Yeah. No, it really was
a touchdown because we're wearing these goofball uniforms.
And then, like, once they got to midfield, I could like barely see. Like when the interception happened, I was thoroughly confused for a second. I'm like, why is our entire defense moving forward again? And then I realized they got the interception. I'm like, oh, okay.
I mean, kudos to the designers. They went for camo and they camouflaged.
They definitely camouflaged. Yeah,
those worked. That was excellent camouflaging. But yeah, right when they came out of the tunnel, actually, even before when they're warming up, they're kind of wearing their pants, but they're not wearing like their full pads and jersey. And you could see immediately, like you can't see their legs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm glad you said something. Blended with the field.
Yeah, no, they definitely did. I'm glad you said something about the touchdown because I do think that ball bounced, but
I think it did. I think it probably bounced. It definitely was not conclusive to overturn it. We didn't get screwed or anything. But you can't. I mean, at least for again, I haven't watched the replay yet and seen it like on an actual TV screen. So you're kind of. They do have big screens, obviously, at Hard Rock. It's a state-of-the-art stadium, but like you're looking like off into the distance. It's kind of hard to tell. Yeah. But the one that could tell is you couldn't tell where CJ Daniels ended and the field started because his clothes matched the field. And it was like a blob of green. It's just like, that much I could tell. That I could tell clearly. So maybe don't blend in with the turf in the future when you're doing these specialties. Great cause, by the way.
No, absolutely.
So love that. Maybe don't blend with the field in the future. Do something a little bit different, a little off color. Not exactly. I mean, great job on the camo, but it's definitely camouflages things. But
I would definitely wear it.
Like that's why we threw those 2 interceptions. I couldn't see it. I thought it was open grass. So I was leading my receiver into the opening, and it happened to be a defender actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say that must be kind of hard for the quarterback to see.
Actually, usually it's one of those things where when you're on the field, it's easy to differentiate, but from up, from the stands, from the cameras looking down. It's not. It's the same thing. They always talk about on TV, you don't see as clearly as when you're on the field. It's like when there's fog and all that. No, the players are fine. They on the actual field, but then the cameras, are just disoriented. So I'm sure it was fine for them. Both teams were able to run plays effectively, so I don't think it was that egregious. But I do think the replay, it didn't matter. He kind of touched on the next play anyway, and he probably didn't catch that anyway. But thought it was funny. We sit there looking at it, I was like, you can't tell the difference you can't tell where he is because he's blended in. He's sitting on the grass. I think it was a good call, but it was definitely a good call to not overturn it. I mean, you couldn't see anything, but it obviously didn't matter. Kyle touched on the next play, but no, you literally couldn't see where Daniels ended the field started, so that caused a problem too. Anyway, in the end, got a little angry first half, but in the end, dominant second half. That was it. I think if the game had been played in reverse, everyone would be screaming, second half, you guys didn't play again, what's wrong, they let up, and all. So either way, people were going to complain, but that second half is what we want to see from the Canes. Dominant performance as expected, covered the spread. So for those hey, I don't gamble, but I know some people were very happy with that last touchdown, but
I don't either for that reason.
But with that being said, I mean, look, the expectation by the odds makers was the Canes win by about 30, won by 35. I know there's a lot of complaining, a lot to work on, all of that, but this is the margin and the performance, and we got the stats up in front of us that you want to see. I mean, this was a dominant performance, even if it took a while to get the train rolling. Once it did, that looked like a top 5 team again. Because look, Stanford's not a great team. We know that. That's why the Canes were favored by 30. But a lot of teams like turning the screw and being able to just dominate consistently for an entire half like that, and for the defense, everything but one drive against a power forward team is not easy.
Yeah.
And the great teams can do that, and the Canes showed that. So that was a good sign. Hopefully a sign of things to come. We want more of that second half versus the first half. But, I think we got again, it took a while to get it going, but I think overall, kind of my wrap-up on the game for me is we saw what we need to see this week. This was never going to make the season. It had the potential to break it. And now there's 5 games left. Canes are bowl eligible. They're 6-1. And just march forward. 5 games left, 3 on the road, including Dallas next week at noon Eastern, 11 a.m. local. That'll be fun. This is exactly what they needed. They got exactly what they need to get out of this game.
They did. They got a win. They got the kind of sting from losing to Louisville out, and I guess my takeaway is that they got the job done, and that no Saturday is a guarantee. You look at around college football, look at USF, for example, upset by Memphis. Alabama got a scare, but they were able to win. I mean, as much as we want to say as fans, oh, they should win easily and this, that, and the other thing, this is an easy game, blah, blah, blah. No Saturday is easy, And I think, not to get into a rant about this, but I do think the more even revenue share is creating more parity in college football and more even, the talent gap isn't as big as it used to be. So I think we're going to see more fun Saturdays like what we saw yesterday, more in the future.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the other thing is, I think the reason you're going to see programs like, potentially Vanderbilt's and things like that be a little bit more competitive. Like you said, there's parity now, but there's allowable money to be spent. And some of these academic schools, their graduates go on and run companies. They have access to a lot of money that you can now legally hand to players. It's a bit of a game changer. Like Stanford's endowment is in the billions. They have so much money. Now, are they putting in the football program? Not really, but if they choose to, but if they choose to, they can. They can, the money we're talking about that we spend on coaches and all that's a rounding error for these schools that sit on these piles of cash if they ever want to channel it into football. And now they can legally do it to get players paid. You're right. It's going to it's not going to make it so that, Duke and Stanford are playing for the national championship every year, but it does, like you said, level the playing field some. And you got to show up every week. And that's why I always say
I was talking to one of my buddies.
Yeah,
oh, sorry, go ahead. I didn't.
No, go for it.
I was talking to one of my buddies, and he said, you may have 1 or 2 losses now, and you still have a chance to get into the playoff. It's becoming more like the NFL, where you could lose week by week instead of having these dominant runs of 23 consecutive victories. We wonder why Nick Saban retired, right? But no, it's not going to be, I don't think, like that level of 34 consecutive victories, constant domination. It is going to be more like the NFL in the sense that you are going to drop a few games. There is a playoff where you can kind of play yourself into it with 2 or even maybe 3 losses depending on strength of schedule. So the model of you got to win all of your games, make the national championship, and be completely dominant, with the revenue sharing and things like that in the playoff, that's gone too. It is, as much as we hate to admit it, becoming more of a pro style type of entity.
Yeah, and eventually, I think what you're saying is accurate. I don't think the talking and any of that has like the kind of analysis is caught up with that, because we're still going to, like you're saying, we can lose multiple times, but we can't. The SEC team can lose like 6 times because they still believe that somehow, that conference is, and it's just not the way it is. That's why Alabama's only lost this game blown out by Florida State. Like, there's just everything is much more even than people realize. And to your point, that's why you're going to see, weird results and all of that. But it's still being treated like that's not the case. Like that you still get that SEC badge of invincibility, even though you could drop an SEC team into the ACC and it would be the same crap at this point. Like there's not really there's not this big gap between conferences that people think there are. And the other reason is, and we'll wrap up in a second, the other reason is that the money has gotten so egregious, not egregious because they're generating the revenue at the back end, but there's so much money. If you really think that a competent person's like, oh, we get 40 million, they get 50 million, I can't compete with that. No way. Like that doesn't matter. You're not spending that much anyway. And so what ends up happening is all of this money is like so out of what you need to actually be a successful football program that everyone has in a power conference has access to it. Right. And so it's really just about how well you execute your plan.
Yeah.
Versus, because while they're sitting there fighting over, they got 80 million, we only get 60. You can't win with 60 million because you're spending 10.
Yeah, right.
The other one is just like, ooh, new jacuzzi in the weight room or whatever the hell. Like, you're not winning because that's where the money is going. That's why their facilities in college are better than the NFL, because they have all this money and it doesn't go into the play. Even now, it's not really going into the players. So it goes into ancillary crap like that.
Well, as the great Cardell Jones once said, we ain't come here to play school. And I think we're starting to see that more.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, to wrap up this week's victory, I'll just leave you with this. I always say never apologize for victory, never excuse a loss. So it was a good performance, got the win. DJ, actually, first Six Rings Kane show tomorrow, 8:30. DJ, I will be joining you next Sunday live from Dallas. So
live from Dallas, that's going to be fun. You're going back home.
That's not home. I am home right now.
You're going to a familiar area, kind of back
to
home.
the state of my birth, but that's all we'll say about that place. I'll be live from Dallas again. The game, they did announce the time overnight, noon Eastern, 11 a.m. local kickoff on Saturday. DJ and I'll be back at 10 Eastern, which is 9 a.m. local for me, but there's a time change next Saturday night, so it's going to feel like 10 a.m. for me by the time Sunday rolls around.
I saw that like different parts of Texas have like different time zones. I didn't know that. I thought it was.
I think the extreme west might be in like the mountain time zone, but most of it's in central. But I will be in central time zone. Anyway, DJ, thanks for joining me. We'll see everyone on the Six Rings Kane show on Monday, and next Sunday, DJ and I'll wrap up the SMU game. Go Canes.
Go Canes.